are due, and that it's time to either pay online or send me another check. If you have any questions about any of that, you can certainly email the board or email me directly, and I'll be glad to help you out. But just remember, once you start your subscription, it will automatically renew on your anniversary date. Any questions about that? Okay, Rita, back to you.
Okay. If you do have any questions on that, you can type them in the chat and we will respond to them at the end of the meeting. Our next speaker is Paige Ellis, our District 8 City Council member. So Paige, if you're here.
Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Fantastic. Thank you for inviting me to be on with you today. It's always lovely to see you all. I really appreciate the work you do to be involved in your community. I know that yours is one that I've been able to pop into a couple of times to do greenbelt cleanups or to do the trailhead opening with your neighborhood partnering program, Safe Route to School. And so I really appreciate how involved you've all been able to be in your community. Before I turn it over to Ed Scruggs, who's going to be able to talk about the water line replacement, I just wanted to speak very briefly about a number of other things that have been happening in the city that we are happy to be working on. Yesterday, I was able to attend the cadet graduation for the new reimagined police department training academy. So we are glad that the first reimagined coursework is nearing completion and the newest cadets have officially graduated now. We also wanted to be able to share with you that not only is the ATX Walk Bike Roll public survey open right now for your input on anything you want to see for sidewalk and bike lane improvements, but in the updates to the strategic mobility plan, the road connection that crosses that neighborhood partnering program trailhead that you built is now being suggested for removal. So that's a really exciting update that we've been able to accomplish with the transportation department. And so we know that's been on your radar for a number of years to try to get that connection taken off the map. And we're happy to announce that we are taking the next steps to do that for you. And without further ado, I will turn it over to Ed Scruggs to talk a little bit about the water line replacement.
Okay, I was muted. I can't believe I'm one of those people, but I'm muted. All right, hello everyone. Nice to see you, Paige. Thank you very much. It's a beautiful morning and not too cold, so that's great. And thank you for having us on. As Paige mentioned, the ASMP map change to take out that extension of brush country is something that we've been working on, and they will, in the next map that comes out, in the process, it will show it as a road suggested for removal, which is a big change. And so we're really happy about that. We'll just continue to usher that through until the end. And because some folks didn't realize y'all had that beautiful greenway built with the partnering program, and they do now. So I'll get to the main portion here, and that is pipe replacement. This is something that's going to affect a good portion of your neighborhood over the next year to 18 months. I don't know if any of you are familiar with polybutylene pipes. This is a plastic PVC type of pipe that was used in construction in mainly the late 70s and 80s, but up until the early 90s. And it was used primarily to connect main water lines to meters and households. Many neighborhoods built in the 70s, early 80s, et cetera, especially in our part of District 8, they used this pipe. And so everyone in West Creek has this pipe that connects your meter to the main water line. Other neighborhoods in the area, Maple Run has a lot of them. Western Oaks across William Cannon has them, a few others. But even some homes in Lost Creek also have them. They just didn't know when they were using this material that chlorine and compounds in the treated water breaks down the integrity of the pipe, so it can cause leaks and then a full-on break. And now they know the integrity of the pipe is maybe 20 years, but some of them are failing at 10 years. All in the district this year, we had several cases where these lines were leaking for a while and they suddenly burst, and it caused a big problem and big shutdowns and everything. So the city has a program where they're going through periodically to replace these. And council in December approved a program, a $9.5 million contract to take sections of the city and replace this pipe with copper pipe, which has a lifetime of over 100 years. They can't do all the homes. So what they've done is they've identified the neighborhoods and parts of neighborhoods where the water pressure is the highest, the PSI, because those are the sections that are most likely to break. We had several breaks in Maple Run this past year. Water pressure continues to increase throughout the city as there are more people. People put all kinds of new fancy appliances in their homes, so the demand on the system for water is higher. So they have identified sections of West Creek that they think are most important to replace. And I think Rita or Valerie have some slides for me that they were to run. So feel free to start and I can tell you what they're showing. Okay, here you have, this is a section of pipe on the bottom. You will see this, the rusted out pipe and couplings that are done. And you'll see how that pipe corrodes. And then at the end there where it splits, this is actually line that's been repaired before with couplings, but it just can't hold together any longer. And what they're going to replace it with will look somewhat similar to what's on top, but they're going to use copper pipe. But that just shows you the condition of the line. And what happens is you'll have a slow leak under the street for many years, and then sometimes it just busts. It causes potholes in the street, and the damage can run all the way up to your meter. And so that's why they have to get these out of there and replace them. So you can go to the next slide. Okay, this is another shot of just how chintzy and how rigid that pipe becomes. So any kind of big change, we had a lot of these busts during the winter storm with the freeze. So that just shows you how bad it can get. Next slide. Okay, here's a map, which I know y'all will have this available if you want to look at it more closely, etc. But the areas outlined in the pink and the homes highlighted, and the homes highlighted with the green dots, those are the homes that are due for this pipe replacement. And what the city will do is anywhere in the next 12 to 18 months, you should get a 7 to 14 day notification that they're coming. They'll do mail notification and they'll do door hangers. And what they'll do is they'll start on a certain section or street, and they'll just start at one end and they'll work their way up. You can see in the map that the section of the neighborhood, the entire section east of Brush Country, south of the creek, is due for this replacement. And that's because that's the area of highest water pressure. So they're going to go in. I don't know what end they'll start at, but they'll start at one end of the street. They'll make their way through. Then you have a little section up there. I think that's off of Sunkist, a string of homes. And then you have the whole area around Canna Cove that'll be done. They're not able to tell us which sections they'll tackle first. But now how this will work is their goal is to keep the streets open so you won't be closed off. In most cases, they have a system that they have come up with where they can pull the pipe under the street, pull the old pipe out and replace it with a new pipe. That should leave one half of the street open with a flagger so traffic can get in and out. There are going to be some cases where they can't do that. and they'll have to trench across the street, but they're going to try everything they can to avoid that. It will take roughly 1 day per house to do the replacement. Water will be turned off on that day, and it could take as long as 8 hours with the water shut off, but they're aiming for 3 to 4 hours. But they should be in contact with you before that happens. You should know that it's coming. You know, they won't be doing this in the middle of winter or anything. That's why they're waiting till the spring. And I believe we have a little video as well that's going to show you how this process will work, how they're going to try to avoid doing a trench across the entire street.
I have no idea if the audio is going to come through, but we'll see.
Okay, I can narrate if it doesn't. Okay, it doesn't seem, that's okay, I can narrate. This just shows you they have the backhoe come in. And he's talking about the strip to be replaced. They will dig a trench between the main line and the meter. But instead of having to go all the way across the street, he's going to show, see this little line, it pulls the old pipe out through that hole, and they can just slip the new pipe in. This is not copper pipe, it's another type of plastic pipe that's approved. But that's it. So that's how it works. So ideally, you wouldn't have a huge impact on the existing street. They will come back in, of course, the contractor will fill the holes in the street. Some of the trenching can get pretty deep, as you can see that, but they're committed to doing this right away and not go on to the next section until they've repaired one section. So for some of those folks on the east side of brush country, you're going to have all your streets. It's going to be challenging for a little while, but it will be worth it because when these pipes burst, they can cause a lot of property damage to the street, to the sidewalk, all kinds of things. And so the city's being proactive on this to help out. Once this gets started, the last thing I want to mention is staging of the construction crews in the neighborhood. And you're all aware you had the gravel issue this past year where the city was staging on Sanderson at the cul-de-sac, the empty cul-de-sac. When they're in the neighborhood, they can stage anywhere in the neighborhood because they're working there in the neighborhood. But we were very explicit with Austin Water and the contractor. We do not want them using Sanderson as a staging area while they work on other neighborhoods. For example, Western Oaks is right across the street. Maple Run is close because that's not a storage yard. And they have to apply for a permit if they wanted to try to do anything like that. So we want to watch out for that to avoid kind of what we had happen earlier this year. But that's it for me. Well, we're always available for questions on this program once it gets started. And if we get wind on an official start date when they'll come to your neighborhood, we'll let you know. So I'll toss it back to Paige.
Thank you so much, Ed, for going into that deep dive. I know with a neighborhood like this, you want to make sure you know all the details, just because one small hiccup can create problems for everybody, and we want to avoid that as much as possible. I did also want to mention that the Violet Crown Trail North Phase 2A construction team has been approved and contracted. There was a meet the contractor night that was done over Zoom maybe a week or two ago. So I know some of you may have been able to attend. If you were not able to and are interested, I believe that was recorded. But it is going to be starting at Home Depot Boulevard and then connecting into the Violet Crown Trail closer to William Cannon. So we're very excited that that connection is taking place, and can share that video with you if you were not able to attend. And I will put our email addresses in the chat if you have any other questions or concerns that you want to make sure that our office knows about. And with that, I will open it up if there's any questions you have for either of us.
I
have a
think, okay,
I have a
sure.
question. You said you're using copper pipe?
Yes, for the replacement, yes.
And did you say it's just between the main line and each house? Is that what you said? Or it's also?
Yes, it's a line that goes from the main line in the street to the meter, which is in your front yard. And this was a material that was offered a real easy connection back in the day. So they used that, but this is apparently the main source of that problem. It's from the water main to your meter. So if it's used in your house at all, then that is the city can't replace that per se. That was your home builder that might have used that. That is something to be aware of, is that even if you're outside one of these zones where they're going to do the replacement, it can still happen. So water tells me, Austin Water, that if you strange leaks near your curb or in your driveway or in your lawn, let them know right away. We had an older gentleman in Maple Run this past year where the pipe had leaked for many, many years. And then a section of his yard and the sidewalk caved in. And so when they were working on a replacement, they were trying to identify where the leak was, and it was hard to identify. So at first he thought, they thought it was his line, one of his lines running from his house. And he had to have a crew and had to have a study done and so forth, but it ended up, it was one of these polybutylene pipes. And so he was reimbursed for all that, but it caused a major issue. So you just always need to be on the lookout for that. And if you notice anything like that happening, call Austin Water.
Thank you. I have to ask this question. I'm just curious. So it seems like there's this big push from the federal government to help with lead and copper pipes. So I was surprised to hear they're using copper.
Yeah, I think this, the way Austin Water explained it, since this is carrying from the main into the meter, it's not, you have lead pipes are the biggest problem. So they are convinced that the copper pipe that they're installing is very safe and longevity. It also has more resistance to chemicals in the treated water. And so this is pretty much, they told me, the standard, kind of the gold standard or the copper standard for making these types of replacements.
Okay, thank you. I do know, and it sounds like in Austin that because of the scale that you don't have the scale that forms on the inside of the pipes, you don't have the same concern because you won't have a lot of contact with the actual material. Like,
yes, that very well could be. And this is a problem that's all throughout the city, and they can only tackle it chunks at a time. So if any of you ever dare to move away from West Creek and move somewhere to another neighborhood, you might want to ask if they know what type of pipe was used for this, because it might come back to you at one point.
thank you, very interesting.
We have another question. The question is, will the pipe to West Creek Landing condos water main be replaced?
It's not on the map. That's with the condos. I'm not sure when they were built in comparison to the rest of the neighborhood. And when you're dealing with multifamily related pipes, it's a whole different ball game in terms of effort, but they have made no indication of that at this time.
Okay. Are there any more questions anyone would like to ask? Jennifer? Go ahead.
Hi, on the Violet Crown Trail, do you know if it's going to go under Mopac, right? You know where Randall's is. I know at one point that was one of the plans. It would go under that bridge under Mopac and then come out to the Randall's sidewalk. I could dig on the site, but I just thought I'd ask you if you knew.
I believe that it is. I know in the meeting they said they would be using existing underpasses. They would not be reconstructing anything at that point. I can share the map if I can screen cap it into this chat as well.
Oh.
I wasn't able to easily pull up the video recording, but I am still looking. And if I can find that before I drop off the call, I will definitely plug that in.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
Are there any other questions anyone would like to ask? No? Okay. Well, thank you, Ed and Paige. We
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for
learned a
having
lot
us.
today. So, our next speaker is Barrett, but I think he's working on his camera. So, Julie, do you want to go ahead and start your presentation?
Sure. I'm kind of new to Zoom, which is surprising in this day and age. So I'm going to, let's see if I can start my own video so I can introduce myself. Hi. Now, will I become, when I pull up my, how does if I share my screen, does it become the main screen?
Yes.
Okay, let me try that. Okay, so my name is Julie Podbielski, and I am one of the coordinators for the Neighborhood Watch, and I'm going to attempt to pull up my, wait a minute, hold on. Let's see, so I think I do this, and then I do that, and I share. Can you guys see my presentation?
Yes.
Yes.
You can?
Yes.
Oh, yay. Okay. So again, I'm Julie Podbielski. I'm one of the two leads for our West Creek Neighborhood Watch. I have a short presentation. I'm going to time myself because I was told it's 15 minutes. I wanted to discuss a little bit. I looked at who's online in this meeting, and a lot of you, I recognize your name, so I know this is nothing new to you. In case there's newer people, I wanted to give a quick kind of description of West Creek Neighborhood because I think it definitely plays into crime, safety, other issues that can occur in our neighborhood, kind of sort of some of the characteristics. For instance, we were, much of us was developed in the late 70s and early 80s. So we have houses that are, you know, let's see, is it 40 plus years now? Am I adding right? We have about 800 homes in the neighborhood. We're kind of bounded. So we sort of have a sort of a pocket, in my opinion, sort of a pocket neighborhood. We have neighbors that include people who have lived here from the beginning of the neighborhood, as well as many new West Creek residents. And sometimes you can get an email about what's going on in our neighborhood, and one of the data pieces I read, we have over 40 homes that were sold in the last 12 months. So we're having a lot of new people in our neighborhood, which is great. Of course, we miss the old neighbors, but it really gives us an opportunity to evolve, I think, as a neighborhood. Some of the nice things about our neighborhood, which is why I live here, is we have a creek that runs through it, which has evolved over the years. It used to be a fully running creek, and now it's more like a creek that fills up with stormwater because we have a lot of impervious cover. So it's more like a stormwater drainage for urban areas now. We have the West Creek Greenway and the West Creek Pocket Park, which is actually a City of Austin park, which is not yet developed. But so we have nice natural spaces. That's great in one regard, but it can also add, some places that it's a buffer in some ways, and it's also an opportunity for safety and crime to become an issue. We have 2 schools right on to our north, which is wonderful. And that's another reason we want those buffer spaces to be safe. Patton Elementary and Small Middle School, and the kids can walk, either along the streets to get to those schools or can go through our West Creek Greenway. And then we also have a lot of restaurants and other urban stores and other things that lead to a lot of people in our neighborhood, especially cross-throughs through our neighborhood to get from 290 to the neighborhoods and the stores on our south side. So those are all characteristics that can sort of affect a neighborhood watch and safety and crime in a neighborhood. As far as a West Creek neighborhood watch, we have had a watch for many years. You'll see signs, some of them faded in and around the neighborhood. Our watch has gone through, you know, what I would call several phases. I remember 6 years ago, there's a core group who tried to kind of become a little more active, and, you know, we kind of like ebb and flow, I think, with depending on a lot about what's happening in the neighborhood, what crimes happen, what safety issues occur, and as people, you know, as certain things happen, like there's a period where we had a lot of what I call petty crimes, but like petty thefts, like out of cars. It seemed like the big thing was people open, and it still happens now, opening the door if you've left it open at night and taking whatever they can find in your car. That could be nothing, or if you've accidentally left something important in your car, then that becomes, you know, something that's pretty critical for you and potentially expensive. So we have sort of two leads, and Sarah, I'm not sure I know how to say your last name. I think it's Bodine.
That's Bodine.
Bodine.
But I answer to Bodine too.
Sarah Bodine, and she has agreed to kind of be a co-lead with me. So far this year, because we have had we had a small uptick of certain crimes in, I think it was December and January this year, which caused us to meet. Those actually unfortunately included Sarah's house, and like a catalytic converter theft and a few other vandalism type things, which has kind of caused us to want to meet again. And also is probably another reason I'm speaking today, is to start getting the word out that we do have a neighborhood watch, and what can we do as individuals and as a neighborhood to make us feel that we are a community that is safe, and that we trust each other enough to, I mean, we residents, if you think about it, is kind of an interesting thing. You can live next to someone you have nothing in common with because you just happen to be able to get a bid on a house and get a house, which, you know, as we know, is really kind of difficult and expensive these days. So I think I feel very fortunate to live where I do. I love this neighborhood, and I've been here now going on 14 years, and there's so much opportunity with our neighbors here. And I think over the years, we've had sort of a interest in some people being more private and some people wanting to be more community oriented, but I'm hoping our watch can kind of serve both. So in light of beginning of 2022, our theme for this year is know your neighbors, help your neighborhood. And the reason I'm promoting this right now is because I really do believe, and if you look up neighborhood watches, they all start with knowing your neighbors, watching out for your neighbors, kind of understanding and observing the flow and kind of knowing when something doesn't look right. And we've had a number of instances where a neighbor has noticed something that didn't look right. They've actually been able to stop certain crimes. But even as something as simple as preventing a crime, potential crime, you know how sometimes they say opportunity, where if you go, like, I remember one time I was walking and I noticed somebody's garage door open, and I knew that person. So I texted him, I said, did you know you left your garage door open? It was like 10 o'clock at night. So I didn't think that was, and he's like, oh yeah, thank you. I forgot to close it. So even as something as simple as that can help us build community. So our goal this year is to build a safe neighborhood by building communication and connections with our members, which is our neighbors. So how do we do that? Or how can you help us? So I'm going to ask, or we're going to ask that you do two things. One is just, there's so many resources and so many methods of communication. There's an existing communication called Nextdoor that I know a lot of us are a part of. And then we actually within Nextdoor there's an ability to create groups. And I think Jennifer Voss might have been the one to create this group, but it's called Neighborhood Watch within Nextdoor. And that's sort of right now going to be our tool for our main communication, which is right now, I think there's 90 plus members. One potential downside is as people move, they may still be on the list, but we're going to try to sort of make sure it's a current list. But if you're not familiar with Nextdoor, I thought I'd give you a quick primer. So if you have never been on Nextdoor, if you go to nextdoor.com, it gives you this page where you put in your address. This is my address, and then your email address, and you join your neighborhood. And then there's something on the back end that I'm not as familiar with, that someone from the neighborhood who's the host for our Nextdoor neighborhood will let you in the neighborhood. And then if you already are a part of Nextdoor and you want to make sure that let's say you've moved and you want to make sure you are in the right neighborhood, there's this little, where this red arrow is, there's a little account settings. And if you click on that, you can go down and change your neighborhood. Let's say you're new today. Let's say you're new in our neighborhood and you were somewhere else. Now you can update it to say West Creek. So this is my West Creek, I guess you call it the home page. And now I'm going to show you. Now this is something a week ago, I feel convinced this said crime and safety, and now it just says safety. So I'm not sure if something changed on this left-hand column over here, but if you click on safety, that is one way you can find out. And here mine says my neighborhood plus 41 nearby. So I'm going to get, if I click on the safety, I'm going to get all, and I can change my settings to get all the reports, which I do. Immediate reports if someone posts under safety, and I've included my neighborhood and 41 in the general vicinity. Okay, so but I meant to actually show you this one, which is how to get into our West Creek Neighborhood Watch Group. So on the left side here, if you scroll down, there's something called All Groups. And if you type in the search here and put West Creek Neighborhood Watch is the first one that popped up. And look, there's lots of other ones if you want to join other ones. So if you join that, then you will receive postings. And that's how I'm kind of asking currently for us as a way to kind of have a communication network is via this particular group in Nextdoor. Okay, so number one was to join our West Creek Neighborhood Watch Group. And then secondly, if you can do something, and I know those of you who have lived in our neighborhood for a long time already do these things, but I encourage you to do one or more, but at least two in the next year. One is to make sure you join the West Creek Neighborhood Association, which you probably have joined because you're in this meeting, and we really appreciate it. It's one thing I'd always drag my feet and wait 6 months, but now Rita told me how to do it, so every year it just rejoins me. And for $20, you can't get a better bang for your buck than to join our neighborhood association. You can attend the annual West Creek meeting, which you're doing. So you've already done one of the two. A third one is to introduce yourself to a neighbor you don't know. And I know a lot of my neighbors because I've been here a while, but there's a few new people who have moved in, and I've seen them sort of walking around, and that's what I'm going to go do is introduce myself to a neighbor. The big thing that we encourage you is to exchange contact information. And on my next slide, I'm going to show you, let's see. On my next one, I'm going to show you kind of what we encourage you to do. It's called the High Five. And also, you can also attend a neighborhood sponsored event. We have a lot of cleanups, and that's a good way to meet people across the neighborhood from you. And then you can, have someone to contact if it's just always nice to know people throughout our neighborhood. And you can also volunteer to help a committee. So if each of us can do two of these, we're really going to start building our network again, because as we've had a lot of new people, that network has become a little thinner. So this is one thing we kind of did a campaign for Neighborhood Night Out to try to encourage people to do is it's called Neighbors Do the High Five. And let's say this is my little home in the middle, that I introduce myself and get contact information from the person across from me on the two sides of me, and then to make kind of like a buffer around my house. This one doesn't include the person behind me, but that would be something I would do as well. And this is really if you've done this with your neighbors, you already know how far this goes in creating sort of a safer place. Like one of my neighbors said, hey, there's this different car, I've never seen it in front of our other neighbor's house. I don't have their phone number. So I texted that phone number and that person, and I said, hey, there's a car. And he's like, oh no, that's someone who's coming to work into the house. And so, it's not a problem. So it was like, we did a little network to figure out that there wasn't anything to be concerned about. And then why are we asking you to do this, even though it seems simple, is once again, the neighborhood watch groups always start with neighbors knowing each other. They're our first line of defense. We have a large number of new residents, and this is a great opportunity to reach out to those neighbors and make them feel welcome, give your contact information. And our West Creek Watch Group can kind of grow as I do think we sort of ebb and flow based on our current circumstances. And there's a lot of resources if you go onto the West Creek Neighborhood Watch page about like APD. I looked up like the last 2 months, what crimes have been reported in the last 2 months. And there were a couple, Monterey Oaks, which is this, the neighborhood of apartments that sort of, it's actually, I can almost see them from my house. They seem to have a little rash because there's a lot of people in a small area. They seem to have a lot of things happen there. And then in our neighborhood recently, we've had a few acts of either vandalism or, just crimes of like throwing a rock, breaking a window, a catalytic converter. And then according to the APD, there was also a theft on West Creek Road Drive. So those are some of the more recent things that have happened that you can look up, and you can actually put your address in. It gives you a buffer of what has happened in your area recently. So my contact information is, my name's Julie. I have a husband, Todd, and a son, 13-year-old David. And we also have an owl in our owl house that we call Hootis. And I wanted to tell you about him because if you come visit me at my house, I will introduce you to Hootis, who has been here now for about 5 months, which blows my mind that we don't know if he's a male or a female, but he's out there watching too. Anyway, that's what I wanted to tell you. Please contact me or Sarah if you are interested, Sarah or me, if you're interested in becoming more active in our group. But today I just wanted to sort of introduce you to our group and keep it in the front of your minds that we do have a watch group here in our neighborhood. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Julie. If it's okay with you, would it be okay if we waited till the end for your questions so that we can go ahead with our next speaker?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. And if you can take your screen off of.
Got it, thank you.
Okay. Our next speaker is Barrett Sundberg, and he's from Windsor Park Neighborhood Association, and he's going to enlighten us on climate resolution. Barrett, are you there? Yeah, okay.
Am I being audible?
Yes.
Fantastic. Well, I just wanted to double check because I am in a new location for me and it is giving me some computer problems. So if you have a glitch, that is the reason why, and I'll apologize in advance. But I really appreciate the last speaker and the type of neighborhood involvement. Windsor Park feels the same way. And I like the organization that this group has. There's a lot of participation, obviously, not just Rita herself being very organized, which is also clearly the case. And so as fellow neighbors, we all live in the we are all sharing a climate. We're all neighbors globally, and probably most citizens at this point feel some need to recognize and deal with the impending climate crisis. The question is, how can we fully organize for it? And so in Windsor Park, we have done something that apparently is the first in the country, and we're inviting neighborhood associations like West Creek to join this movement, the ground floor ground floor and build this sort of branch of the climate movement as quickly and strongly as possible. We hope you'll join us. So I'll be explaining briefly what we've done, showing a few images related to that, and inviting you to upcoming events. And we hope that you'll be able to develop something of your own momentum along these lines and join with us in something that's of interest to both of our neighborhoods and all the rest of the neighborhoods in Austin. I'd like to, I'll try sharing my screen and showing you, first we did a neighborhood resolution, the first neighborhood resolution in the country about climate change. And so what I'm gonna start doing is try sharing my whole screen, and then I'll cut to the climate resolution itself. And so what we have here is Climate Corner is something we started doing to share information on the climate. Wording itself of the resolution that we passed. You can see we did this in 2019. We spent parts of 3 months discussing the wording. Several volunteers, including myself, I was supporting our current committee chair, Martin Lukey, in draft. Then is we brought up the draft for people to discuss at our meetings. We have monthly meetings at Windsor Park, so we discussed it and had input from the various members. We modified the wording, did the same thing again the next month, because we like to have a month to finalize. And with the adjustments of the wording, it passed unanimously and became the first climate resolution in from a neighborhood. And that represents an expanding of the grassroots movement for climate change. So let me cover a couple high points and then things we've done and answer any questions. It would be allowed to answer questions in this segment because I think they might be relevant. And so I hope to not overstay the time that's scheduled for it, but still take your questions. Would that be okay, Rita? In this section?
Fine. We'll give you a 2-minute warning.
Awesome. So very briefly, our wording mentions that we accepted the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the IPCC, as a kind of scientific authority on that. That was important to us because it kind of defined for us what level we say that the climate problem is. It's large and sort of well sourced. And then we went on to ask all of the different political jurisdictions that report to us, everyone that we vote for, to do something about climate change. So we had a bullet list, as I'm showing here, on the city and regional level of things that we ask for the city and county to do and other regional bodies. We put in bullet points to ask for the Texas legislature to do things about climate. And we followed up on that by meeting with our state representative and state senators. And impressively, our state senator actually put one of the things we talked to them about into the charges to be discussed for legislation, and legislation that was put up for vote, although not passed, but put up for discussion in committee by the legislature in the following session already occurred. So we're making incremental progress. And we now have we have some highly supportive state legislators talking with us. And we've had some, beginning to have some influence through there. The more resolutions and the more neighborhoods join this, the more influence we grassroots will have. And then we had bullet points for Congress, asking for everything from a lot of different things to build up a climate-oriented energy system. And so on. We don't think that our wording is the end all and be all. Another neighborhood association, North Loop Neighborhood Association, passed its own resolution and they changed our wording, and I think they have improved it. I think it is better. And we've told them so. We're very appreciative, and we urge you to pass your own resolution, change anything you want, and just push forward and join us. And you have some different representatives and we have some in common. And the more of these resolutions that pass, the more we can get our legislators to do things. And we on our own side also promise to do things in our own neighborhood. Here at the bottom of the screen, we're saying WPNA will, until further notice, take the following neighborhood level actions to mitigate global warming. And we've done a lot on these. Urge residents of Windsor Park to take individual actions to reduce global warming, promote climate change mitigation efforts by highlighting level and invite neighborhood stakeholders to develop initiatives. I'll switch to another screen and show some of the things that we followed up on that, and then answer any questions that you have. So this is the on Windsor Park. This is the on Windsor Park's website. This is our climate committee page. And so these quick links show, for example, things that we started out suggesting that people can do at home. And it's kind of a 10-point list as you go through it. What we did after that is we created a measuring spreadsheet, which it needs to be slicker to be easy to use, but we created basically a Google Sheets that people could join, and it has calculations in it for how much climate impact, how many pounds and tons of carbon people are saving by doing these actions. I had a number of people sign up, and we recorded, I don't know, I haven't looked lately, but you know, some scores.
Looks like he is frozen. Any suggestions, Michael?
We just got to wait until he probably gets dropped and rejoins.
We're watching for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, there he got dropped. We'll see if he comes
Okay.
back on.
That's interesting that you can go in and see the influence of any changes that you might make.
Yes, they have a lot of good ideas. We should start working on some of those.
A new project, yay.
We can also put that in our newsletter.
I got notes.
Okay, that's good. Does anyone have
Might
any?
take
Go ahead, Lacey.
might take some time to switch from gas powered to electric lawn machinery.
Yes.
It's an investment, but I bought an electric lawnmower. First, I tried a battery one and it was too weak, but I bought a plug-in one and it's fantastic. It's just as strong as a gas one and way less maintenance. It doesn't stink. It's really nice. You just have to get used to a different pattern mowing lawns so you don't go over the cord.
I used to have an electric, and I've run over the cord, so I kind of fell in love with the gas one, but I can adjust. Rip the cord and cub cadet, go wherever I want. But yeah, I'll have to get with you on the brand you use.
Yeah, the pattern is easy. You just always make sure the cord is going away from the outlet, and then you never run into it. But if you try to do the whole like circular thing, forget it.
Yeah, with a tree, around a tree. Yep, it's like vacuuming around a tree.
Well, Rita, do you want to, I can watch.
Watch for him.
Yeah, you want to go ahead and
Yeah. Do you want to bring my slide up next? Michael or Elizabeth?
Amen. Yep, I'm on it.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Okay, that was Barrett's. So if you want to go to the next one. These are the different committees that we have in our neighborhood. I just wanted to go over them a little bit. Julie talked about our neighborhood watch, so I don't think I need to cover that. We have a welcoming committee. And this year we have really kept them busy with all the houses that have sold. So I want to thank our welcome committee. They have filled bags with the information to different businesses and information about West Creek. And they stuff those bags and then they deliver them. So they have been very busy. The next one on there is Greenway and Williamson Creek. Our Greenway, when you volunteer for it, we do different things at different times. We usually try to do once a year to remove invasive plants. And of course, there's always trash to pick up. And we would like to do, we've been doing new plantings. We need to do some more plants at our trailhead. And our Williamson Creek cleanup has been, Valerie's been leading the way with it, and we've been doing cleanups, and in the pictures we're going to be showing you, you can see all the trash that we get from the creek. The next one is our annual picnic, which will be on April 30th this year at Dick Nichols Park. West Creek will be providing the food, and we will probably have a raffle. At this time, we cannot have a bounce house because of COVID, but if that changes, we can certainly do that. The next one on our list is the Oak Wilt Committee. We had a lot of brave volunteers that helped walk the streets of West Creek in August when it was really hot. And we were looking for oak wilt in our neighborhood along with our arborist, Jim Rooney. We found several areas that do have oak wilt, and some of the neighbors are treating their trees. We also have a red zone that we're watching to make sure that the trees are treated or something's done with them so that we don't pass it on to our neighbors, because oak wilt can spread quickly. Our Yard of the Month committee, they go around and look at yards and see which yard is an outstanding yard. And then they vote on which yard they think should receive the Yard of the Month. You have to be a West Creek member to be able to win the award. And you also receive gift certificates from Klingman's, Leaf Landscape, and Cypress Grill. And our last one is our newsletter distribution team. We publish our newsletter twice a year. This year we ended up doing 3 because we had to get the information out about the Oak Wilt grant. So we've kept our volunteers busy with that too. If you would like to sign up to be a sub or for any of the committees, we would love to have you. You can respond to the board at westcreekna.org. And if you want to change the slide to the projects. Michael or Elizabeth, can you change the slide, please? This is some of the projects that we've worked on this year. Because of the winter we had last year, all the plants up at the West Creek sign, except for one, were dead. So we worked on pulling all those out and adding new landscaping and edging and mulch. Our next project was the Greenway, and we installed 2 dog waste stations because that seems to be where a lot of the trash comes from in the Greenway. So those have really helped. The trash that we've seen lately has just been, regular trash, like from the kids coming home from school. The other thing that we installed were the 2 trash bag stations. There's one at Canna Cove and there's one at Brush Country and Somerset. At this time, we're looking for a sponsor for the trash cans. What it would be is if you have a business or something that you would like to advertise on the trash can, then you would be responsible for picking up the trash once or twice a month, just checking on them and make sure that whether they need emptied or not. If you're interested in becoming a sponsor, you can also email the board at board@westcreekna.org. And we also installed unleashed dog signs in the Greenway. We installed those because dogs on a leash are better for the safety and well-being of everyone. And it's also a city ordinance. I don't know whether you've noticed or not, but the speed limit sign, oh, wait a minute, I'm skipping over the Oak Quilt grant. We received the Oak Quilt grant from the city of Austin. And we encourage you, we have signs all over the neighborhood to follow the city guidelines on trimming your oak trees. You should prune them July through January and paint them as soon as you prune. I want to thank the volunteers that did the walking and helped us get oak wilt out there to all of our neighbors. Our next accomplishment was getting the speed limit sign replaced. It's working again. The one on Somerset will not be replaced. We will just have to live with it the way it is. But we felt lucky that they replaced our sign because they're no longer doing that. And our Williamson Creek cleanup, we had one in June and one in November. And we are going to have another one February or March 6th, I think it's at 8. And there always seems to be an abundance of trash. And the last thing that we've done, we sponsored National Night Out up at the Greenway. We had our police representatives come and Julie was there with her high five to present to the neighbors. So if you have any questions about that, you can contact Julie or Sarah, and we will be having another National Night Out. It's the first or second week in October. We'll post it when it's time. Okay, you want to go to the next slide, Michael, please? Okay, our goals for 2022. We want to add more edging, mulch, plants at the trailhead. A lot of them have died over the winter, so we need to put some new plants in. And we also want to put some edging in for the mulch around one of the trees. Always seems to be on the sidewalk instead of around the tree. And in the greenway, we need to add more gravel to the walking trails. There's a lot of kids that walk through there, but we're working, trying to find somewhere to get a sponsor to sponsor the money for the gravel because it's expensive. And John is working on that to see if we can get any kind of grant with the city or if we can get anyone that would want to sponsor us. Our emergency team, I've been working with the county and the city on this. This is a team that will go hand in hand with Neighborhood Watch. It's just a couple of people on each street that know their neighbors that would be willing to, in an emergency such as our snowstorm last year, to see if anybody on their street needs help. And if they do, they can report to me or the board. And then we will let the county or the city know so that the phone lines don't get, backed up from each person in the neighborhood calling. So we're working with that, and we also need volunteers for that. If you're willing to work and help us with that, that would be great. Our next thing is I would like to establish a red zone committee for the oak wilt. So if you know somebody's tree looks like it needs help, we would like to be able to give that person information. And we can also have our arborist come back out and talk to people. He's very good and he's very helpful, and he's not just trying to sell you something. And the next thing, we want to replace some of our neighborhood watch signs, as Julie mentioned. Some of them are faded and we have replaced some, but this year we would like to replace more. So if you're out walking and you see a neighborhood watch sign that needs replaced, you can email the address to the board so that we know it's on our list to get replaced. And the brush country, I don't know if anyone walks up there, but there's always trash. And we'd like to have a committee that picks up trash every once in a while, and we'd like to do a cleanup day where we can clean up some of the brush up there that collects the trash and trim up some of the trees. So if you're interested, just let us know and we can get started on it. We're going to be picking a date for that, so we will put that out to everybody. Okay, you want to go to the next slide? Okay, another thing that we would like to do is add a sign up at the trailhead at Somerset and Brush Country. This would be made out of cedar or the plastic that doesn't fade. We're thinking the budget would be around $1,000 for this. We're also looking for sponsors for this, that their sign could go below where we would put our messages. That way everybody could see the announcements and they would know, what's going on in the neighborhood in case they missed it on social media. Okay, go ahead and go to the next slide. Okay, this is our proposed slate for 2022 for our executive committee. And if you want to take the slide down, Michael, so Elizabeth can, well, I guess we only need to do Rob and Christine, but that's fine. Okay, I will continue on as president. And our vice president, Valerie, is retiring, but she's agreed to continue with the creek cleanup, and she's also going to continue to be our editor, which she's great at. So Barb Huffman has agreed to move up from her at-large spot to take the vice president. And is there anyone that would like to nominate someone, or if you would like to be vice president, if you can raise your hand? Or if we can continue on down, and then if anybody wants to put it in the chat what they would like to do, if they're interested. Our next spot is treasurer, and Sue has agreed to continue with that. We moved people around last year when I became president because I was the treasurer. So she has a one-year term left on this, and then she'll be up for re-election again. Secretary is Elizabeth, and she's retiring, but she's going to help us out. And her husband has volunteered to be our new secretary, and his name is Robert Rickley. Did I say it right?
Rakely? Yeah.
Rakely, okay. All right, well, thank you, Robert. Okay, our next position is Lacey Smith, and her term will continue on for another year. We have an at-large position on number 2, which is vacant. That's the one that Barb left and moved up to VP. So if there's anyone that would be interested in being our at-large position 2, please put it in the chat. And then we will go back through and we will vote on these. At-large position number 3, Janine is retiring also. And Christine Edwards has agreed to take that spot. So if there's anyone that would like to put your information in the chat, we will start on the voting. And we want to thank Michael, our webmaster, who takes care of all our technical errors and all the stuff that I don't know. So, is there anyone in the chat? Okay. All right. Our for vice president, Barb Huffman has been nominated. Would someone like to make a first nomination for her? Make a motion? Okay. Motion is made by Lacey Smith. Is there a second?
I'll second Barb.
Who said that? Let me bring up my,
Jennifer?
Sorry, Jennifer.
okay. I can't see the hands. Okay, now I can.
How do you put that hand up there?
Oh,
Go to reactions.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. And yeah, is there any nominations for anybody that would like to be vice president? Okay. Okay, then would someone like to second Barb's vice president?
I would. It's Julie.
Okay. All right. Do you see all these, Sue?
I think so. I have Lacey as nominating Jennifer and Julie.
Okay. Okay, and so
Wait. I'm sorry. What? Did I second Barb? That's what I meant to do. I meant to second a
Yes.
motion.
Yes,
Okay.
you did.
I was gonna make sure I didn't try to get into the mix. I wasn't trying to run against Barb. Sorry.
Oh, I thought I was seconding for Barb.
Okay.
Let's start over.
okay. All right. Who would like to make a motion, the first motion for Barb to become VP? Okay, raise your hand if, okay. There's Valerie and Lacey. And do we have anybody else on the next page? Okay. Okay. A second motion for Barb. Would someone like to do that? Okay.
Got Walter
Valerie?
Berry.
And Jean. Okay. Everyone in favor, if you don't have your video on, you'll need to click on reactions and raise your hand, but if you're on screen, you can raise your hand. So all in favor of Barb becoming VP? Okay. All right, let's move on to our next one. And that's for Sue as treasurer. Would someone like to make a nomination, the first motion for Barb or for Sue? Okay, we have a lot of them. Okay, There's Lacey, there's Valerie, there's Jean, and if someone can help me watch the second screen for the hands. Okay. All right. So you got the first and second, Sue?
I don't think so. Lacey, Valerie,
Julie,
okay.
David, and Trudy.
Who's the second?
I'm not sure if they still have their hand up from the first or the second. Maybe we should start over and make sure after you make a nomination, after you make a motion, that you take your hand down so that we know whether it's the first or the second. Okay, let's do this again. For Sue Stewart as treasurer, who would like to make the first motion? Okay, there's Marcia and Lacey.
Okay,
Okay. Is there anyone from the floor that would like to run for treasurer? Okay. All right. Who would like to make the motion? Lacey, you want to take your hand down so that we know whether it's the first or the second motion, and Marcia? Okay. All right. Who wants to make the second motion for Sue as treasurer? Okay. Valerie, Jean, Lacey, Sarah. Okay. All in favor, raise your hand. Okay. All right, our next position that's open is secretary. And Robert Brakely, did I say it right this time? Okay. Is there anyone from the floor that would like to be the secretary? Okay. Who would like to make a motion for Robert to be our secretary? Raise your hand. Michael and Valerie and Janine and Lacey and Barb and Jean. Okay. All right. And for our second motion, Vanessa, Jennifer, Barb, Elizabeth. Okay. All in favor, raise your hand. Okay, it's passed. Okay, our next vacancy is our at-large position number 2, and this is the one that's vacant. Is there anyone that would like to volunteer for that position? No? Okay, well, we will leave it vacant and we will continue to look for someone. Okay, for at-large position 3, Christine Edwards has agreed to help in that position. Would someone like to make a motion to nominate Christine? Okay. Jean, Trudy, and David, Lacey, and Barb, and Michael. And is there anyone else? Okay. Okay. And for the second motion for Christine, Valerie, Iris, Barb, Robert, Sarah, Jennifer, Michael, Trudy. So, okay. All in favor, raise your hand. Okay. It's unanimous, so Christine is in. So that's all of our positions for that. Welcome to the new board. And the next thing we need to cover are the bylaws. We made a few changes to them just because of the way we're collecting our funds now. Michael, if you can bring our Next slide up on that. Okay. Proposed bylaw changes. Why did we propose these changes? We're trying to keep consistency of terms throughout the bylaws and clarity of terms at the start of the year. And we've made some changes over the years, minor corrections from fiscal year from 501c3 to 501c4. If you want to bring up the next slide. Okay. This is where we made our changes. This is under membership. And all these bylaws are on our West Creek Neighborhood website. At the top, you can click and it says bylaws. We have under membership class, under voting, we made a small change there just to keep our language the same throughout the bylaws. It says occupant or owner of a single family detached home, townhome, condo, or duplex in the West Creek subdivision, who's paid WNA dues for, we are changing it to the current from fiscal year. Because of our paying online, people's memberships renew at different times. So that's why we wanted to make that change. In the next one, it is under non-voting members. The occupant or owner of a single family detached home, townhome, condo, or duplex in the West Creek subdivision who has not paid WNA dues for the current, we're replacing fiscal with current again. And the next slide. Okay, membership dues. We're making the change there so that the people that pay online, they're 1 calendar year from the date of payment. So if I pay my dues today, they will automatically renew a year later on this regular date, on this date. The next slide, please. Okay, this one is membership. And the same thing here, we're just changing the wording in here to go along with the rest of the wording in our bylaws. We would replace voting members of the association present at any annual general membership meeting shall be entitled to 1 vote per household is what we're removing, and we're putting occupants or owners. Each matter submitted to a vote of general membership. Okay, the next slide. Terms of office, this one we're just adding. It's talking about our executive board and the positions that are, how we vote on them. And the only thing we're adding to this is the outgoing officers will continue until the election of new officers at the annual meeting. So before your membership, if you were an officer, basically it expired at the end of that year. So we want you to continue until we elect new officers or whatever the case may be. So you want to go to the next one? Okay. On this one, dissolution, the only thing we're changing here is because our 501c3, because we're a nonprofit, expired. So we had to go in and reapply. And when we did that, we reapplied as a 501c4. So the only difference that makes is that if we would want to have a candidate forum from both sides, we could have that, where before we were not allowed to do that. So We need to vote on these. Does anyone have any questions about any of them we've discussed? Michael, you want to take the slide down so we can have the faces up again? Okay. I think we can vote on all these changes unless someone has a question or would like to make a comment. Does anyone have anything they would like to say? You can put it in the chat or raise your hand. Sue, can you answer this question, whether Michael and LaDonna are paid members?
I already did. Thank you.
Oh, thanks. Okay. And is there any more questions? No? Okay. All right. Who would like to make a motion to accept the bylaw changes as we stated and showed you on the screen? Someone like to make the first motion?
Michael just did.
Okay. All right. And would someone like to make a second? Okay, Lacey and Jean. And okay. All in favor? Raise your hand. Okay. Okay, it passes. Okay, now we're going to open it up to questions. If you want to, you can either put them in the chat or you can raise your hand. Just use the icon, go to at the bottom of the screen, reactions, and raise your hand if you have a question. And we will try to answer it. And you can ask questions of Julie. And Ed is still with us. And I don't think Barrett ever came back in, did he?
No.
Okay. All right. Does anyone have any questions or comments or anything they would like to add?
Rita,
Go
Oh.
ahead.
Does anybody have any questions about how online renewal or subscriptions work? Joan, your hand is up. Does that mean you have a question, or we should read your palm?
Sorry about that.
No
I did not-
problem. Okay, just remember, once you sign up, you don't have to do it anymore. So if you see join today, encourage someone else to join because you already have. If you need to make changes to anything on your online subscription, you can email me and I can walk you through that. But once you sign up and you designate how you would like your dues to be spent, remember that there's a general membership of $20. And then you can also donate money to the Greenway, you can donate money to Neighborhood Watch, or you can just donate money in general, which some of you have done quite generously. So thank you. We try and be good stewards of what you send us. And if you let us know what's important to you, we'll try and make sure that that money gets spent in that way to support those types of programs.
Yeah, you're welcome to let us know what you would like to see in the neighborhood. Anything, you know, that is feasible that we can afford. If you have, you know, any ideas besides like the gravel for the Greenway and the sign at the trailhead, if there's something, you know, you have in mind that you think is important, you can let us know. Is there any questions for
There was a
Oh, and
question for Julie in the chat. So will that high five house form, is that available for download?
Yes, it's actually on the West Creek Neighborhood Watch link, which I just put in the chat. But that one you would have to like do a screenshot. I also have it as a PDF if you would like to. I wonder if, Michael, if I gave you the PDF, can you do it as like a link? I could either email it to you, but I'm also wondering how to get it to, anybody who would like it, I could email it to you, or if there's a way to do a link where you have it just as PDF on the website, and then you just click it and it pops up.
Yeah, I can certainly add it either to the website, or we can find a way to link it kind of in a sticky way on the next door deal, so that the link stays around.
Okay, yeah, so right now, if you click on the link I put in the chat, it takes you to the West Creek Neighborhood page, and in the center is the neighbors do the high five, and I will see if Michael can make that like a printable, so you don't have to try to cut it out yourself and print it.
Well, you can right click on it and say save image as, or download image, and print just the image if you want.
Oh, you learn something new every day. So if somebody would like it directly sent to them, because it would be easier as a PDF, please email me, and I'll put my email. Otherwise, you can do what Michael just suggested, which is to go on the website and just do the right click and then save it as an image.
Yeah, and go ahead and send me the PDF regardless, and I'll add it to Nextdoor somehow so that it's around and easy for people to download and print.
Great, thank you. Glad to see folks are interested in that.
yes, I think it is on the website, isn't it, Michael?
Well, the image is, it's not a PDF. And so what
Okay.
people are asking for is just something that's more of a full page, ready to
Okay.
print thing.
And Barrett just rejoined us. If anyone has any questions for him on the climate change. And there's also a question in the chat about when your dues renew, will the greenway and the, I think it said safety, or let me find it.
When your dues renew, they will renew at the same amount of your original subscription. So if your original subscription was dues at 20 and a Greenway donation, let's say for 10 or 15, then your dues will renew at that same level. If you want to make changes to that, you can email me and I'll walk you through it. I put my email in the chat, or you can just email the board and I'll get that and I'll get back to you and we can do it one-on-one.
Okay, any other questions? I want to thank Ed and Paige for coming to our meeting and for them getting that road removed off our greenway and getting our water pipes fixed so we don't have leaks every time we turn around. And for Barrett for giving us his climate information. If you want anything else, you can go to the Windsor Park webpage, and you can always contact Julie or myself. And if you need anything, you can always contact the board at West Creek WNA.org. Okay, there's Barrett said there's one item worth mentioning. Do you want to take it, Barrett?
Yes, one of the things that we're doing, you're invited to, everyone who's listening here. We are going to have a climate conversation with two excellent guest panelists. This will be broadcast on YouTube in very soon. This is going to be on Wednesday, February 16th, I believe. And I will, in just a moment, I'll try sharing the screen to show our flyer on that. Our guests will include Mayor Steve Adler, and also a climate activist who's in touch with us through Citizens Climate Lobby named Solemi Hernandez. They both attended the COP26 Climate of the Parties Global Conference on Climate Change. And we're going to get both their perspectives on what happened, what didn't happen, what citizens, even in our neighborhoods, can do about these issues. And your questions will be much appreciated if you send them to us, or either live or ahead of time. We'll be glad to try and ask those questions to those panelists. Let me show you the, I'll try showing that information momentarily.
We have this slide that we can show if yours isn't working. Oh, there you go. Okay.
There we go. So you see Mayor Steve Adler will come, and the other person, I'm in the bottom right, but the Solemi Hernandez is our other guest. She's from Citizens Climate Lobby, and she attended. She'll be giving the activist perspective, and Mayor Steve Adler, the civic leader or politician's perspective on the climate change issues and what the conference was like. As a mayor, he's probably a junior leader compared to the global leaders. There were a lot of people there. I'm really interested to hear what he has to say, as well as what Ms. Hernandez has to say. She has a grassroots perspective with, she spent several years doing basically a community organizing talk show in Spanish in Florida where she lives. And so we have a terrific combination of perspectives coming up. These conversations, we've done about 5 or 6 of them now, one every 2 months for most of the past year. They come out much less glitchily than my broadcast today. And we're glad of that because they've been terrific conversations. If you want to email information questions in advance, we'll try to ask those. That would be to Windsor Park Climate Committee at Gmail. Windsor Park Climate Committee at gmail.com. If you'll send your questions, and if I somehow said it wrong or there's a glitch, just please send them through Rita, and her emails to me are working great, and we would be glad to ask any of your questions. Also, we'll try to make them live from the comments in YouTube. You can just post them in the comments in YouTube if you're listening live. We also include them later, but if you want your questions in, of course, send them live. We usually have a volunteer monitoring those. We have a volunteer who's being the underlying host of the broadcast, and then Martin and I are the conversational hosts during the conversation. So there's many avenues for participation. We hope that you guys would consider crafting your own resolution or using one of the existing wordings and participating in those kind of things as well. The next 2 weeks is a little short, but since this is coming up on the Wednesday, I believe 16th, and yeah, Wednesday the 16th of this coming month, we hope you'll join us.
Thank you, Barrett. Do you want to put in the chat, can you put your link that you were talking about?
Yes, it's just the email address to our email address for the climate committee within Windsor Park, and that is directly received by my co-host and the committee chair, Martin Lukey, and I will put that in the group chat momentarily.
Okay, thank you.
Did my share end?
No, not yet.
Okay, let me try and do that correctly. It's offering me new share, not end share, so I don't know why it's not coming through. I apologize.
Okay. Any suggestions, Michael, Elizabeth?
To end the share?
It's only, it doesn't give me an end share option. It gives me a new share option as if I have ended. I tell you what I'm going to do for the convenience of, I'm going to, okay, it seems to.
It's gone.
Correct?
Yes, it's gone.
Okay, thank you all.
Thank you. Okay. We're having a food drive for Abiding Love Food Pantry. It's right down the street on Brush Country. They give out food every Monday. And we're collecting food donations at 5302 Wolf Run, 6304 Sanderson, and 5309 Somerset Trail. We'll be collecting until Monday. I think we decided to go ahead and do Monday because we can't deliver the food until Tuesday. So if anyone would like to donate, let us know, and we can. We have boxes on our porches. Sue has one, and Michael and Barb. So just swing by and drop it in the box, and we'll make sure that the food bank gets it. Is there any questions or any comments anyone would like to make? Because it looks like we're running ahead of schedule, and I want everybody to know that we have a book club in the neighborhood. So if you're interested, it's on next door. If you go to under the groups where Julie talked about and scroll down, it says West Creek Women's Book Club. All you got to do is click on it and it'll send us a message, and then we will go in there and approve you. And we meet once a month along with the board. If anybody changes their mind about joining the board, we meet the first Thursday of the month. The book club meets the second Tuesday of the month. So when we have been meeting with Zoom on both of those, so there's no contact. We're hoping one of these days we'll be able to meet in person again. But for now, we're using Zoom. Okay, does anybody on the board have anything they would like to add or share?
Out of something.
Go ahead.
Let's see, if you're doing the Hello Fund, and if you change whether it's a credit or debit card, just something to keep in mind that, if you get a reminder, you'll have to update your card for the membership.
If you get a new card, you will have to change your information.
That's something with so many accounts, just always a fun time of year to get all your accounts updated. And I have to remember to keep the Hello Fund and the correct one.
What Lacey's referring to is when you pay online. Because it doesn't say Hello Fund when you click join now. You're just paying online, but that's a company that takes care of it for us. So. Okay, anything else?
This is Julie. Valerie mentioned it's my park day. It's March 5th. It's always the first, the spring It's My Park Day is the first March of the year. And there's then always a second one in the fall, which is the first, I can't remember, October. Anyway, that one, the spring one is coming up, and it's always a really good way to meet your neighbors. We do the one down at Williamson Creek. It's called something like Williamson Creek. And then she'll put some other title on it. But we meet at the top of Brush Country. We go all up and down the creek. I think it's a great way to meet people, but it's also a great way to see Williamson Creek and see how every time we go down there and do a new creek cleanup, you see how it evolves as a creek. So I really encourage our neighbors to be. Last time it only allowed 25 people to sign up. I don't remember if that's true this time either, but it's nice to have our neighbors sign up first so we can have, our people from our neighborhood down there and meet each other and stuff. It's always fun, and you get a free t-shirt. It's how my son always looks for his next t-shirt. He really likes those. They're very comfortable.
Yeah.
This last one had a big bee on it.
Yes, it's nice that they give us t-shirts, and there's always lots of trash down there to pick up. So there's plenty for everybody.
And it's fun.
Yeah, it is. You're amazed at what you find down there.
It is fun. Sorry, this is Valerie. And just real quick, I don't want to make this meeting any longer, but yeah, if you're interested, go to the It's My Park day. They're going to post the actual each project in a couple of days. They haven't posted all yet for the spring cleanup, but yeah, if you can, and if anybody's interested in hosting a second cleanup on the other, like further down by Mopac, that would be great if somebody else wants to set that up, because right now we can only do 25 people and we need to do closer to Mopac as well. So if anybody's interested in doing that.
Valerie, have you been down there? Is there a lot of trash?
I'm down there pretty much every day, and our side is fine, but if you go west of Brush Country, we need more cleanup over on that side this time. And then there has been a lot of trash that is closer to Mopac because that has not been cleaned up in quite a while. So the only time it gets really cleaned is whenever a big water event, big flood event happens. So, but yeah, if anybody wants to come out, that'd be great.
Okay. Is there anything else? We're having the picnic April 30th at Dick Nichols. We'll be sending out notices on the picnic and the cleanup, and we'll be posting a calendar. Oh, the garage sale is the first weekend in April. For anyone that's interested in having a garage sale, we'll be putting that information out too. So.
Is that the first, when you say the first weekend in April, I think, is that like April 1st is the Sunday? So you mean the first full weekend in April?
It will be the first Saturday in April.
Okay.
It's always the first Saturday unless Easter falls that weekend.
Got it. Thank you.
So start cleaning out your closets.
I only end up finding neat stuff from other people's closets and filling mine.
Okay, well, I think that's it. Thank you all for coming. Thank you, all of our presenters and all of our volunteers. We appreciate you, and we look forward to seeing you again. So.
Thank you for all
see you
your work,
later.
Rita.
Oh, thank you, Julie.
Hi, everybody.